My husband tried to hide his estranged sister in our basement after she got fired from her sixth job. When I found out, she screamed, "You've always thought you were better than us." 7 weeks later, he begged me to let her stay again after she stole from my purse. Jonah and I had been married for nearly a decade, and we lived in a modest, two-story colonial house in Menons, just outside Albany. He worked for the city's transportation maintenance department, steady hours, steady paycheck. I'm a nurse at a long-term care center in Schenectady, which means I'm tired even on my days off. We didn't have kids. By choice. It was one of the few things Jonah and I always saw eye to eye on. Instead, we had a dog named Sawyer, a garden I poured too much of my weekends into, and a shared calendar that made sure we never double-booked dinner with my mom and his friends from work. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. Quiet. And that's all I wanted. Until his sister came back into the picture. Brielle. The wild card. The tornado with a driver's license and an attitude problem. She was 3 years younger than Jonah and had made it her life's mission to stay one bad decision ahead of rock bottom. In the 10 years I'd known her, she'd bounced between jobs, apartments, serious boyfriends, and at least 2 failed business ventures that ended with her blaming toxic people and bad luck. She and Jonah didn't talk much. He said it was too exhausting. I said nothing, just nodded. It wasn't my place to push them together or pull them apart. I just knew one thing: she was not to live with us. We made that agreement early in the marriage. Set it in stone after she got into a screaming match with his mom at our wedding reception and stormed out before we cut the cake. So when weird things started happening around the house, I never considered her. The first time I noticed something off was when I went to grab a hoodie from the laundry room and saw a trail of crushed crackers on the basement stairs. Sawyer wouldn't go near the basement door. Weird for a dog that loved exploring. Then, there was the shampoo incident. I knew I had a full bottle in the downstairs bathroom. I use the same kind, same scent every time. One day, I reach for it and it's empty. Like someone had poured half of it out and thrown the rest away. Jonah said I was probably remembering wrong. I knew I wasn't. The final straw came when I worked a double shift, got home around 2 p.m. instead of my usual 6, and found the basement door cracked open. The house was quiet, eerily so. I stood in the hallway, holding my keys, listening. And then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of someone breathing heavily, downstairs. I didn't even call out. I walked slowly down the steps, every creak feeling like it echoed louder than the last. The basement was mostly used for storage and laundry. Dimly lit. Cold. And in the corner, surrounded by 3 plastic storage bins, was a makeshift bed. An old futon from college, a few blankets, a suitcase, and a half-eaten bag of Doritos. And there she was. Brielle. Looking startled, groggy, and completely unapologetic. "Jesus, you scared me," she said like I was the one trespassing. "What the HLL are you doing here?" She stretched and yawned. "Jonah said I could crash here for a bit." "You weren't supposed to find out yet." I didn't say a word. I turned around, walked upstairs, and waited. Jonah got home an hour later. I was standing in the kitchen, arms crossed. "You lied to me." He didn't even pretend to be surprised. He set his keys on the counter and sighed. "She lost her job again," he started, his voice low. "And her roommate kicked her out." "She didn't have anywhere else, she's not a stray cat, Jonah. She can't just sneak in and live in our basement like some secret shame." He leaned against the fridge. "She said it was just temporary. I figured if we could get through the weekend." "She's been here how long?" 3 weeks. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded. "Just once." "She's gone. Tonight." To his credit, Jonah didn't argue. Maybe because he knew he'd already lost this one. Maybe because he saw the look in my eyes. Brielle didn't leave quietly. She stomped upstairs, carrying her things in a trash bag, looking like she was ready to start a fight. You've always thought you were better than us, she spat as she shoved past me. You act like you're so perfect. Newsflash, you're not. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She slammed the door hard enough to make the walls shake. For a few weeks after that, things were tense. Jonah apologized. Said he should have told me. Said he didn't know how to say no to her. I told him that was his problem to work on. And I meant it. Things went back to normal. Sort of. But then, exactly 7 weeks later, he sat down across from me one morning and gave me that same look he had the first time. Don't be mad, he said again. I was already mad. She lost her job again, he said. And she got into a fight with a friend she was staying with. She's sleeping in her car. She's not coming here. It's just for a few days. No, he leaned forward. I told her she could come by for a night. Just one. You don't even have to talk to her. I got up. Poured myself coffee. If she sets foot in this house again, Jonah, I'm gone. I mean that. He went quiet. But that night, I woke up and found my purse moved from its usual spot. Inside, $150 in cash was missing. I knew. The next morning, I checked the Ring camera I'd placed on a whim near the side entrance, the door we barely used. There she was. 3:47 a.m. letting herself in with a spare key. The next thing I did was print out a still frame from the video, circle the timestamp, and tape it to the fridge. Under it, I wrote, I'm not stupid. Then I packed a bag and went to stay with my friend Myra for a few days. Jonah called me 9 times the first night. Texted even more. I had no idea. She must have found the key. She's gone now, I swear. I didn't respond. Let him sit in it. I needed time to think. To feel the weight of all the things I'd been brushing off for years. Because this wasn't just about Brielle. This was about Jonah not having my back. About him choosing someone else's chaos over my peace. About him assuming forgiveness without doing the work to earn it. I stayed at Myra's place longer than I'd planned. She lived about 20 minutes away, closer to downtown Albany, in a small 2-bedroom apartment above a bakery that always smelled like cinnamon and burnt sugar. She didn't ask questions. Just handed me a spare blanket, pointed to the guest bed, and said, you can stay as long as you need. I didn't cry. Not once. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just tired. Tired in a way I couldn't quite explain. Every day Jonah would send some new message. I get it now. She betrayed us both. I told her she's not welcome. Can we please talk? The thing is, I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I kept thinking about that moment in the kitchen, weeks ago, when he had the chance to tell me the truth, and didn't. When he watched me come home every day, blissfully unaware that someone was sleeping beneath our feet. The worst part? He didn't even trust me with the truth. He didn't even give me the dignity of being in the decision. He just acted. And I was expected to catch up. Again. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. Jonah didn't really understand what partnership meant. Not fully. He thought of us as a team, except when the plays got hard. When the stakes got messy. Then it was him and Brielle, or him and his guilt, or him and whatever made it easier not to feel like a bad brother. He wasn't malicious. But he was spineless. And I couldn't carry both of us anymore. After 4 days of silence, I finally responded. I'll come back Friday. We need to talk. You need to listen. I walked into our house that afternoon and everything felt too quiet. Cleaner than usual. Like he'd scrubbed every surface trying to erase something. He was sitting at the kitchen table, eyes puffy, hair unkempt. He started to speak, and I held up my hand. I don't want an apology. Not yet, I said. He nodded, kept his mouth shut. I want to know, I continued, when you decided I wasn't worth telling the truth to. Not just with her living here, but with everything. The missing money. The sneaking around. You knew she was a problem, and you still brought her into my home. He opened his mouth and closed it again. Then finally, I didn't think you'd understand. That broke something in me. Understand what? I asked, genuinely confused. He looked down. That she's my sister. And when she calls crying, it's like I'm 12 again, watching her get yelled at, trying to protect her. I know she's a mess. I know she lies. But I keep thinking maybe this time will be different. That maybe I can help her fix it. And every time I try, I end up burning everything else down instead. I stood there, taking that in. You're not 12 anymore, I said softly. You're not her savior. And I'm not the collateral damage. His shoulders sagged. I messed up, he said. I get it. I really do. I just don't know how to say no to her. I believed him. That was the part that scared the most. I knew he wasn't evil. He just hadn't learned to draw a line, and keep it. So I drew one for him. We're getting counseling, I said. You're changing the locks. And you're telling her she is never to set foot in this house again. Not for a night. Not for a minute. Not even if it's snowing sideways and she's barefoot. He nodded quickly. Okay. I'm not doing this again, Jonah. Not with her. Not with you lying for her. I know. And if I ever feel like you're choosing her chaos over my sanity again, I'm gone. He didn't argue. He just sat there, absorbing it. Maybe for the first time. That night, we slept in the same bed. But I faced the wall. He didn't try to hold me. Maybe he knew better. The next day, he called a therapist. Made an appointment. The day after that, he changed the locks and got a small safe for our important documents. Gave me the only key. A week later, he handed me a letter. Written in his chicken scratch handwriting, telling me he was sorry. That he never wanted me to feel second to anyone. That he knew he'd broken trust in ways that might never fully heal. I folded the letter and put it in my nightstand. Not because I forgave him completely, but because it was the first time he stopped hiding. Things got quiet again after that. The calm felt fragile, but real. We talked more. Fought less. Didn't pretend everything was okay, but didn't let it fester, either. Every so often, I'd get the urge to check the ring footage again. Just in case. Old habits die hard. One night, we were having dinner, nothing fancy, just spaghetti and garlic bread, and Jonah said something I'll never forget. I didn't realize how easy it was to lose everything by trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I looked at him, half expecting him to take it back. But he didn't. He just kept twirling his fork. No dramatics. No tears. Just quiet clarity. Jonah started going to therapy on his own before our couples sessions even began. That was his choice. I didn't ask him to. He came home from the first appointment and didn't say much, just tossed his jacket over the chair like usual and started making tea. A small shift, but I noticed. We'd fallen into a strange new rhythm. Cautious. Measured. Like we were learning to live together all over again. We still shared meals, still let the dog out together, still exchanged bits of small talk, weather, groceries, Sawyer's vet appointment, but underneath everything, there was this buzzing tension. The kind you feel when someone drops a glass and it doesn't break, yet. I didn't press him about Brielle anymore. Honestly, I didn't want to hear her name. I'd blocked her on everything and removed the last photo of her from the hallway wall, a Christmas picture from years ago, before I really knew what she was capable of. The therapist, ours, was a woman named Dr. Hargrave. Mid-50s, sharp but warm, the type who could see through excuses like smoke. Our first session was mostly silent. Jonah sat stiff in the chair. I crossed my arms without realizing. We barely looked at each other. But by the third session, the words started trickling out. Jonah talked about their childhood. About their dad walking out when he was 11, and how Brielle spiraled after that. He said their mom gave up trying to parent them after a while. That he always felt responsible for keeping Brielle together. She used to sneak out at night, he said. And I'd cover for her. I'd lie to my mom, take the blame when she'd come back drunk or high or whatever. And after a while, it just became normal. Protecting her. And when did it stop being normal? Dr. Hargrave asked. He hesitated. When I married her, he said, gesturing toward me. I didn't look at him. Just sat still, breathing through the knot in my chest. That was the first time I realized how deeply he'd let guilt drive his life. Not loyalty. Not love. Just this gnawing sense of responsibility that had no off switch. I think I expected therapy to fix everything overnight. Spoiler, it didn't. But it did something else. It slowed things down. Made the invisible threads between our choices and our consequences visible. At home, we had more conversations that didn't end in defensiveness. More nights where we just sat on the couch with Sawyer between us, not saying much, but not avoiding each other either. Then one night, maybe 3 months after I came back, I heard Jonah talking on the phone in the garage. He didn't know I was folding laundry by the open window above the washer. His voice was low, but the tone caught my attention. That guilty, cornered cadence he used when talking to someone he couldn't say no to. Brielle, I can't. I told you, no more. You made your choice. Pause, no, I'm not hiding money from you. Why would I? Pause, she left because you broke her trust, not because of me. She's not the bad guy here. Longer pause, I don't owe you this. I don't. Silence. Then he ended the call. I didn't bring it up right away. I waited. That night, I sat next to him in bed, book in my hands but not really reading. He was staring at the ceiling. Was that her? I asked. He didn't pretend. Just nodded. She wanted money. Said she was gonna be evicted again. Claimed she had nowhere else to go. Did you give it to her? No, I waited. I wanted to. For a second. Then I heard your voice in my head. He looked at me. Telling me I was choosing her chaos over our peace. I didn't say anything. He continued, she tried to twist it. Said I changed after marrying you. That I stopped being her family. And what did you say? I said I started being my own person. He exhaled, like the sentence had been stuck in his lungs for years. I told her she can't come here. Ever. That I'm done cleaning up after her. I believed him. And for the first time, I think he believed himself. But here's the thing about people like Brielle, they don't go away quietly. 2 weeks later, Jonah's car window was smashed. Nothing was stolen. Just shattered glass everywhere and a note tucked under the windshield wiper. You left me out in the cold. Family doesn't do that. No name. But we both knew. We filed a police report, just in case. They couldn't prove anything. No footage. No witnesses. Jonah didn't say much that night. Just sat in the living room staring at the walls like he was back in his childhood home, stuck between responsibility and freedom. I didn't console him. I didn't say I told you so. I just sat with him. Sometimes, that's enough. The final confrontation didn't happen until a month later. We were leaving therapy when his phone rang. I watched his whole body go stiff. He declined the call. Then it rang again. Same number. He handed me the phone. Can you answer it? I blinked. What? I don't want to talk to her. But she won't stop. So I did. I answered the call, and before I could say a word, her voice exploded through the speaker. Jonah, you are such a coward. You think she's better than me? She's not. She's manipulative and cold, and she's turning you against your own blood. I didn't say anything. She went on for nearly a full minute, insults, accusations, every manipulative trick in the book. When she finally stopped to breathe, I said calmly, "You don't scare me, Brielle. You're not going to break this. Not this time." Then I hung up. Jonah just sat there, stunned. Like I'd reached into a part of his life he never thought I'd confront. "That was the last piece," he said quietly. "I think I needed to hear it. From both of you." A few days after that call, things began to unravel for Brielle in a way I don't think even she saw coming. It started with a phone call from Jonah's cousin, Laurel. We'd only met a handful of times, mostly at weddings and awkward Thanksgiving gatherings, but she'd always struck me as level-headed. She wasn't close to Brielle, but apparently, Brielle had been reaching out to every extended family member who would listen, spinning a story about how we'd cut her off and left her homeless. Laurel's voice was hesitant. "Look, I don't want to be in the middle of anything, but she's been saying some wild stuff about you too. Claiming Jonah drained her savings, that you kicked her out while she was sick. That you stole from her." I let out a sharp laugh. "She's still doing this?" "She asked me for money, too. Said she needed it to hire a lawyer and get justice. But something felt off, so I figured I'd check in with you first." I thanked her, kept my voice calm, but inside, something clicked. This wasn't just manipulation. Brielle was actively trying to ruin Jonah's name with the people who mattered to him. That's when I decided I wasn't going to let her control the story anymore. It wasn't about vindictiveness. It wasn't about revenge in the dramatic, fire and brimstone way. It was about consequences. Measured. Permanent. Icy cold and completely legal. Jonah didn't want to escalate things at first. "What's the point?" he said. "She's always been like this. She'll dig her own hole." And maybe she would. But I wasn't content to sit back and wait. I did some digging. Called a lawyer I knew from the nursing center whose wife handled tenant disputes and small claims. I explained what had happened, the unauthorized entry, the thefts, the harmment, and now the smear campaign. She listened. Then she gave me the first satisfying tool in my kit, a cease and desist letter. We sent it through a process server, official, undeniable. If Brielle so much as sent another text, another email, made another baseless accusation to a family member, we'd pursue a restraining order. The language was precise. Brutal in the most clinical way. It landed. Hard. The next wave came when Jonah decided to log into his old joint bank account with Brielle. One they'd opened years ago to help her pay rent when their mom passed away. He never officially closed it. Guess who had been funneling money from random people into it under his name? Yep. She'd been collecting pity money from relatives and strangers, claiming it was going toward rebuilding her life. And using his name as a point of trust. We documented everything. Froze the account. And then, with the help of Laurel and 2 other family members who'd been duped, Jonah filed a police report. Again, no drama. Just paperwork and quiet resolve. And here's where it gets good. Brielle had recently applied for a job at a boutique health and wellness center in Saratoga Springs, one of those mid-upscale places that's all about curated social media and brand image. She'd bragged about it to several people, saying it was her chance to finally get stable. Laurel's niece worked there. One polite message later, with a link to the police report and cease and desist documentation, and suddenly Brielle wasn't a good fit for the brand. No job. No funds. No pity left to extract from people. And then, like clockwork, the silence came. A full month with nothing. No calls. No slander. No sideways attempts to contact us. Jonah started to exhale differently. Lighter. Straighter. Like years of silent tension were finally loosening from his shoulders. He got deeper into therapy, started going to the gym, stopped flinching every time his phone buzzed. We rebuilt slowly, but meaningfully. We painted the basement. Turned it into a hobby space for me, a little reading corner, some plants, a proper laundry setup. I reclaimed it. My home again, fully and unapologetically. And then one Sunday, I saw her. I was pulling into the Hannaford parking lot, and there she was, sitting outside near the carts, a too-thin hoodie pulled over her head, scrolling on her phone like the world owed her something. She didn't see me. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. That wasn't my battle anymore. But a week later, Laurel called again, this time laughing. Apparently, Brielle had tried to crash a small family birthday gathering. One of Jonah's cousins had been celebrating her daughter's sweet 16, and Brielle showed up, uninvited, asking for a chance to explain. They turned her away at the door. Politely. Firmly. Like she was a neighbor selling something no one wanted. That's what real justice looks like sometimes. Not revenge with fire and fury, but 1,000 doors closing gently, one by one, until there's nowhere left to knock. Jonah and I celebrated our anniversary in October. Quiet dinner. Candles. A bottle of wine we'd been saving. I looked across the table at him and realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Brielle. Not even at him. We'd both learned. The hard way. But we'd learned. I'd held the line. And this time it held.